Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Debbie Alley's Project 39, and today I'm showing you a design team project for the Not Too Shabby shop. I used this fabulous paper pad called Purrfectly Snuggly. It's a 6x6 paper pad, and I was able to make an adorable pocket letter. Let me show you all about it and what's inside the pocket letter. And it opens this way. I made a little clasp using one of the cut-aparts, the roses. It actually has an eyelet below it, and I show you in the tutorial following how I made that. But this will open like that. Now what I'm using this for is I'm sending my mother-in-law a three-dimensional card, and there will be a couple of different aspects to it, but what it is to thank her for all the fun times we had over Christmas. Now this is open here, so you could add something else if you wanted to here. You know, you could put a little gift card. It says coffee anyone, so there is a possibility of using that. I left this page blank. Number one, the roses are adorable, but also because I didn't want anything to get in the way of the closure. And then this will open up like this. This is a side pocket. And this is, again, a little tuck spot where you could add in another letter or a gift card or whatever. And there's room on the back if you want to put a little photograph or something like that. I did use these two cut-aparts for this little page, and I think it came together nicely. Doesn't she look so cozy, especially with the little kitty cat on her shoulder? There is a kitty cat coffee cup, which is super adorable. And there is another little tuck spot for a journaling card or photos if you want to. And then it opens up yet more. And this page has the circle closures, and that'll open like that. Now you could just add something freestanding in here, like if you had gone to a play or something and you wanted to add the tickets, you could put that in there. Or again, another spot to put photographs if you want to use it as a sort of mini photo album. So this will close like that. And I do show you how I put this all together, including using some eyelets as the closure. And then this is super cute too. This is just another little pocket, and this is a little folder that you can write something in or add photos. And I'm going to use this as a spot to write in. And then, so we've already seen that, and then this folds up like this folds down like that, and then I'll show you what's on the back. So we go around a couple of times, and then around here just to keep it closed, and then this adorable little kitty cat is here on the back. And again, that could be a tuck spot, but I think I have enough places to add mementos or little journaling cards. So again, it's a 5.5 by 5.5 little pocket letter. You would need to add extra postage if you were to mail it, but it's not a big deal. It probably cost about $3 to send, or it's a good thing to hand deliver. So I want to show you how I made this. Let me show you the tutorial. All right, we're going to start with two 12 by 12 pieces of paper, and I am going to cut them down, and I'll go through the measurements. So with one of them, we're going to cut it at 5.5. So we have 5.5 by 12. The other one we're going to cut at 5.5 as well. And then cut that down to 9.25. So you'll have 5.5 by 9.25. All right, now the other one, I'm going to cut down to 6.5. So you'll have a 6.5 by 12 piece and a 5.5 by 12. We're going to cut them down a little smaller. The 6.5 we're going to cut down to 2.5. So you'll have 2.5 by 6.5. And 3.5 by 6.5. And then the 5.5 piece, we're going to cut 2 pieces to 3.5. All right, there's my second 3.5 by 5.5. And then I am going to cut this down to 5.5 by 2.5. And then we have this piece left over, which is, let's see what it is, 6.5 by 6. I'm going to cut it down to about 4 1/8. So it's 4 1/8 by 6.5. All right, now I'm going to show you how to score if you don't have a scoreboard. And we're going to start with our first piece that we cut, which was 5.5 by 12. Now what we need to do is score this at 5.5 and 5 3/4. Now I've got this paper trimmer, and this does have a scoring blade, so I'm going to show you how I use that. So we're going to score this at 5.5. Just make sure you don't use a cutting blade when you want to score. So anyhow, 5.5. That's how you use the scoring blade, obviously. Now I also want to score it at 5 3/4. So I'm moving this up to 5 3/4. Let's say I don't have a score blade. I just have a regular paper trimmer. I can still use this, and I'm taking, this is an old Cricut stylus, but you can use anything with a blunt point. Just anything with a blunt point. You could use a stylus, you could use a bone folder, just as long as it doesn't have a real sharp point. But I like using this. So I'm just going to take this and run it. Instead of where you would cut the paper, I'm going to use it and score. So I've got my 2 little score lines. One is at 5.5 and one is at 5 3/4. Now the other piece, the one that is 5.5 by 9 1/4, we're going to score at 5.5. I'm going to turn this over just to keep it consistent. So 5.5 and 5 7/8. So again, if you don't have a scoreboard, you can use a paper trimmer if you have one like that. Now if you don't have a paper trimmer and you're using maybe an X-Acto to cut, you can just simply figure out where you need the score line, and put it on a surface and just use, again, a blunt tip. So I know not everybody has a scoreboard, but it does make it easier. Okay, let me show you the next step. Before I go any further, I want to show you the 5.5 by 12 piece. You're going to score at 5.5 and 5 3/4, and then you're going to go over a little more and score at 11 1/4 and 11 1/2. I didn't want to forget to tell you that. And then once we've done that, you're going to attach this 5.5 by 9 1/2 inch piece, and you're going to attach that right here, right after the 11 1/2 inch mark. We're going to just attach that there so it's one big piece. I had to clean my desk. There was just so much stuff in the way. So I'm going to just take a little bit of my Barely Arts glue and put this down here. So I'm just going a little bit to the right of that last score line. And I'll take my bone folder and burnish. And there we go. Now I'm going to let that dry while I score the other pieces. Alright, let's take some of the pieces that we've cut down and score them a little further. So I'm going to start with 6.5 by 3.5. So I have the long side up at the top of my scoreboard, and again, you can use whatever method of scoring that you want. I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. I'm going to rotate it so the short side's at the top and score at 1/2 inch. I'm actually going to score it with this short side just so my writing is still correct. You'll see what I mean in a second. And then score at 1/2 inch again. So we've got 3 sides scored, 2 short sides with 1/2 inch and 1 long side. And we're going to do the same with the 6.5 by 2.5. Now we'll have 3 pieces left, 2 5.5 by 3.5, and on this I'm going to take and score on one of the long sides, so one short side is at the top, and score at 1/2 inch. And we'll do the same with the other piece, score at 1/2 inch. And then the same with this last piece, 5.5 by 2.5. I'm going to put the short side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. And now we have this piece, which is 6.5 by 4 1/8. I'm actually going to cut it down because our paper is 6 by 6. I'm going to cut it down to 6 1/4. I'm going to use this little paper trimmer real quick. Yeah, I have so many paper trimmers, don't I? 6 1/4. Do I want it 6 1/4? No, 6 1/8. Sorry, 6 1/8. It's 6 1/8 by 4. And I'm going to score it at 3 1/16. I know, teeny little measurements. But there's a method to my madness, believe me. So now we'll just fold that in half, and we have a little folder. All right, now those pieces that we scored on 3 sides, we're going to be trimming a little bit. So you see you've got a short score, a long score, another short score, and there is an X where those 2 score lines meet. We're going to simply cut across that X. And we'll do that for both of those X's. And then I'm going to trim just up to that score line. Just miter that corner, just like that. We'll do the same with this one. I'll miter that, cut against the X, cut against the X, and miter that corner. Now you can, if you want to, miter where these score lines are in the other pieces. So I have my 1/2 inch score line, and I'm just going to cut from that 1/2 inch up to the top, and here I'm cutting down to that score line. That way, if your pieces don't line up exactly, you won't notice them. But it's not imperative. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Okay, all right, all done with the scoring. Now with these, I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to fold on that score line and take my bone folder and burnish. That's it, just so it's a nice crisp fold. And I'll do that on all these pieces that have the 1/2 inch. And then this one that has the 3, I'm going to fold the long side. and then the short side. And the same with this one. We'll fold that long side. And then the short side. Okay, now let us take the long piece, and we have this one 5.5 inch section to the far left, so there's 5.5, and then a couple of score lines of 5.5, a couple of score lines 5.5, and a couple of score lines, and then the shorter piece. So make sure we've got it that way. All right, starting to the left, we have the 6.5 by 2.5 inch piece that's scored on 3 sides, and that's going to become a pocket for us. So I'm going to add some glue on that long side first, and line that up as good as you can. So I'm going to line up that one side, and the reason I'm just going to do that one side is so I can burnish this real well. And then I'll take some more glue and put it on that 1/2 inch tab and fold that down and burnish. Now, I don't want it to be flat because we're going to add something in, so I'm sort of letting these corners, I'm pushing it so it's raised here a little bit. So I'm just going to burnish a little bit until that glue adheres, and we're done with that piece. Now, let's grab, we have 2 pieces that are 5.5 by 3.5, and before I put them down, I have a corner rounder. It's antiquated and I know I need to get a new one because it's broken, but I'm going to round the corners of these 2 pieces and the 2 corners that of course don't have any score lines. I'm going to add glue. And I'm going to put one up at that second 5.5 inch piece, right up at the top, and burnish. And I'll do the same with the other one. And just line it up in between those score lines, nice and flat. Oops. There we go. All right. Now this piece we're going to take the we're taking the 5.5 by 2.5 inch piece and adding adhesive and putting that up at the top. And burnish. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to glue this down on 2 sides once we've gotten the paper. I just decided to not have all these pockets that are scored on 3 sides, just to help keep it a little bit flat. Now this one last piece, I'm going to take my corner rounder, and you could use a decorative corner rounder if you wanted to. I don't have one, but I do like the idea of rounding that. So I'm going to round that short little piece. I'm going to turn this over so that that little piece is going to be on the right hand side, and we have one more piece that's 6.5 by 3.5, and we're going to put that over here. And again, I'm going to add the adhesive to the long part, put that down. And add adhesive to the two short sides and glue that down and burnish as well. And again, making sure that I'm pinching these two sides just so things will fit in here. All right, now once all that's done and dried, let's go ahead and fold on all of those score lines. And one more thing before we decorate. All right, I'm going to take, I have this scrap piece left over, and I'm going to just cut 3 circles, and these are about 3/4 of an inch, but you could use whatever size. And it doesn't have to be circles. If you wanted to, you could use a flower punch. And what I'm going to do is, once I've cut the decorative paper, is put that on here and do a circle closure over there. And then I'll also be putting a closure here, and that's going to close the whole thing. So I'm just going to take those and put those aside so we don't forget to use them later. And now I'll go ahead and cut the paper to decorate. All right, let's start decorating. So I cut a piece 5 3/8 by 5 3/8, and I think I'm going to add some inking to the edges. I'm using Dusty Concord. I don't always ink, but you know, this purple is so pretty, and I just sort of like to call attention to it. And you don't have to use purple. You could use fuchsia color, sort of a this rose color, this pinky color, whatever color you want. You could use a gray. A blue gray would be beautiful as well. And so this is going to get glued in here, just to make sure it's even on all sides. So I just like to put it in, add some glue, and get that in nice and even. And then for this bottom piece, I have this beautiful plaid. And again, I'm going to take my Dusty Concord and ink a little bit. It just adds a little definition to the edges here. Real pretty colors. And I will center that onto here. Now I also did a little fussy cutting. It came from this page. I cut the books and the kitty cat mug. And again, to add some definition, I'm going to ink around the edges. And the little kitty cat cup. So I'm going to glue these down onto the left side. Put that right there. And the little kitty cat mug. It's going to set a little bit higher, not much, but we'll go like that with that. And then out of that little folder, so I cut these the rose pattern to go on the front and the back. And I also used some pink cardstock I had in my stash, just a scrap to go on the inside of this folder. It gives me a place to either add a photograph if I want, but I think in this case I'm probably going to put a little note. I'm going to send this to my mother-in-law. She had indulged us in some fun stuff for the holidays, and I just want to send a thank you. And the fact that she came and visited with us was super sweet. So again, I'll ink around the edges just lightly. This purple is pretty intense, so I don't want to overtake it, but if you want to, you can. You know, if you really like that pink purple and you want to just accent it, you can do that. And we'll just burnish that down and put this on the back side. You don't have to add it to the back if you don't want to. You know, you get to a point where it might be a little bit too thick just to send in the mail. And for this, I probably would hand make an envelope. But I do have a package to send, so I'm not that worried about it being too thick. So this can go right in there, and that makes just a nice little tuck spot for this little card that I can write something neat in there. All right, so there's that one. Let's work on this. All right, for this part you'll need 4 pieces that are 2 7/8 by 5 3/8, because you'll need 2 for the front and 2 for the inside, and then you'll need 5 and what is the size? Oh, 5 3/8 by 5 3/8 for the center. So I've already cut and inked around most of the edges, but here I'm going to go ahead and corner round it. And then ink where I rounded those corners, because I hadn't done that before, with this beautiful purple. And then what I think I'm going to do before I actually adhere these, right, I'm going to put it down. Sometimes I'll use ATG and just put a little dot of it on there just so I know exactly where it's going to lay. But in this case, I'm just going to, so I'm going to have these circles opposite each other. And probably what I need to do is punch holes in the center of these. So I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers Crocodile, doing my best to make a hole in the center here. Now, am I going to add something to it? You know what I thought? That I might actually cut holes. You know, should I do that? Will that look good on there? No, I think I'm just going to leave them purple for now. So anyhow, I'm going to lay this down. Lay that down. And figure out where I want these to be. And once I figured that out, let me go a little mark and then punch a hole. those are. Okay, so now do I want to put the purple there, or do I want something on top of the purple? In retrospect, I think I want something on top of the purple. Let me figure that out. All right, so I cut this, actually cut it from the cover, and I'm going to glue that onto our little circles, and again cut a hole in the center. I did ink around these edges of these little pieces. That is a nice little touch, sort of a glittery looking little touch. And then I've got a couple of little eyelets that I'm going to put on here. So we'll do the first one. So I put the eyelet in the hole, and we've got the corresponding hole for here. And I'm just going to put it and scrunch it down. So I've got that on there. Now before I do this one, no, I'll go ahead and put the eyelet in, put that on here, scrunch it down so it'll bond. And then I've got a little piece of purple elastic. I'm going to just tie it around one of these sides. And that's what I'm going to try to do. And then cut that. So we've got that there. And then I'll go ahead and glue this onto the front of this. Make sure I have some glue around where the hole from the eyelet is. And don't forget, I did ink around the edges here. And put the second one on. Okay, and then we'll put the square 5 3/8, excuse me, by 5 3/8. And then which one did I want to have where? I think we'll do it that way. So I need to round the outside corners and add them. So he can go here. And this one can go on this side. All right, So this will go like that. And like that. I think I'll just tie a little knot at the end of this. And you don't have to use elastic. I just had purple elastic. I didn't have any purple seam binding. Just whatever string. Could be a ribbon too, if you wanted to use a thin ribbon. But I do like to just add a little knot to it and cut it close to that knot just to have a finished look. Okay, so now we've got those two done. And let's work on this one. All right, let's make this a little easier. I'm going to fold everything so we can work on this page. So first of all, I've got a small piece to fit on here. And of course I did ink around the edges with the purple. And we'll just add that to here. When I'm adding mats, I just try to keep just about a 1/16 of an inch around the perimeter as a border. I don't like really big borders, so I tend to have them on the small side. All right, now I inked around the edges. I didn't ink here because we're going to hide that. You're not going to see it. So let's add this. And we will just make sure that that gets centered. And of course, I'll take my bone folder and burnish that adhesive down. All right, now remember, this is not going to be a flap. I mean, you can leave it as a flap if you want, but I'm going to make it as a pocket. So I'm just going to add a very small bit of glue to the very edge of that, not a lot, and then I'm going to hold that down and burnish. So that's going to make, so it's sort of like a flat pocket. It doesn't have all three sides. We're going to let that sit and dry. It doesn't have all three sides with a flap on it, so you can, like the other ones. So, and then what I have inside, I have two things. I've fussy cut out the gal drinking coffee with the cat on her shoulder, and then the adorable 3-tier tray. Now you could do either or. You could put the girl there, and then what I'm going to do is have this extra piece to go in that pocket, and you could do either or. I'm going to put the girl on the pocket just because I like the coloring. So we're going to add her. And I fussy cut, and then I lightly ink around the edges. That way if there's any of the white showing, the inking around the edges sort of hides it. Not completely, but to some extent. And I'll burnish that. Make sure that kitty cat's ear gets down. She looks nice and cozy in her nice comfortable socks. And then I've got this, another scrap of paper from my stash. I think on this one, I'm going to round all 4 corners. Just adds, I don't know, just something different. And then of course I need to do the same to this piece that's going to go on top. This piece, by the way, is 5 by 4.5. Oops, I did not ink the edges, and I've already put the glue down. So I really don't have much time to do that. And I'm not going to sweat it. I'm actually not going to worry about it. And then we put that down. And then we'll take the 3-tier tray which again I've inked around the edges there. But what I'm going to do on this one, well, I'm just going to put glue. When I flip it over, it's going to be on the left hand side. And it'll be a little bit of a tuck spot. So we'll put that down. Burnish that glue. And then once that's dry, then this will fit into there. I want to put it in gently. I don't want it to hit the glue. And as I said, so this could be a little tuck spot. I mean, I'm not going to put that in, but you could. I'll figure something else to put in there. Let's go ahead and take care of this flap. Now I've already cut this piece. And of course we have to round the corners because that is rounded. And I'm going to take my purpley ink. And again, you don't have to, or if you want to, you could use an entirely different color. Alright, so that's going to go there. But I think I'm going to hold off on putting that down yet because I want to put the circle closure on that side. So let's get the back pieces all ready as well. All right, let's finish this up. So I'm going to center this on here. Go ahead and put a hole in there. Put my little eyelet in. Set the eyelet. I'm going to do something a little different with this one. That's set. It needs to be set a little tighter. There we go. So I'm going to take a fussy cut this little rose, and I'm going to take that and glue it on top. You know what I think I might do is use a little bit of double-sided adhesive on the rose. I'm going to put it on there, fussy cut around it. Because we're not going to see the eyelet. It's going to be hidden underneath this rose that I'm adding the double-sided adhesive to. That way it'll stay on real well. So I'll peel off the backing. Add a little glue because I don't have the backing on the whole thing. I should have added the backing. Come on, glue. Added the backing and then fussy cut it, but you know, I always do things backwards. So now I'll take this and add that onto here. So it's going to be sort of dimensional because of the eyelet that's in there. But that's okay. Sort of cute. And then I had grabbed a little bit of, well, more. How big is this? It looks to be about 24 inches. And I'm going to knot it and tie it underneath that rose. Oh, I like it. It's just something a little different. And then I'll cut off this end. And then I'll glue this onto here. And I already inked around the edges of all of these pieces. All right, so we've got that. And I've got this one, and this one. And since this is the back of it, I'm not going to add as much embellishing, but I am going to embellish a little bit to the back. You'll see. Or you already have seen because you saw the walkthrough. Put that on. So again, there's just a 1/16 of an inch showing. This one I have the dark part inside the pocket. If it doesn't go in, take your bone folder and that'll help slide it in. All right, and we've got one more piece to add, and that's going to go over here. Make sure I inked it, and I did. And that'll go on the inside. So now what I've got left is the gussets. And I think I'm just going to cut some paper and fill that in. I just don't like the larger one shows. Oh, I have this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. So I'm going to fill that in before I go any further. And here you can see I've added the plaid to the gussets. I added the little kitty here, the mug there. And again, it folds like this. And then this wraps around like that. And I guess I can go around like this just to keep it closed. And that is it. That is our cute little pocket letter. And that is the little pocket letter I made using the Purrfectly Snuggly collection from Not Too Shabby. I know you will enjoy this collection. Lots of things to do with it. So stay tuned and see what other things I do with the next collection from Not Too Shabby. Thanks for watching. Have a fabulous day.